Welcome back to ValueCast Australia, everyone. Today we're talking about other new Haval models that are starting to reach other markets, such as Russian market. This Haval H3 is a brand new model. It's an interesting one. It's an upgrade from Haval Jolion. So they will still have Haval Jolions, but this is one model up from Haval Jolion, as we will hear more in this translated video. Please enjoy this review and do let me know, do you think this is a true upgrade from Haval Jolion? Would you consider this Haval H3, if it was available in Australia, over Haval Jolion? Would you pay a tiny bit more for it, perhaps just because you saw something that you like? Enjoy the review!
Haval 3 is a brand new and rather interesting crossover vehicle from Great Wall Motor that's already being manufactured in China and imported into Russia starting in 2024. H3 has a rather daring appearance, and a lot of us would probably like this, but it doesn't have a frame underneath, which is why it doesn't qualify as a proper off-roader in my books anyway, and fits into an off-road capable crossover category. Apparently this Haval H3 is built on, believe it or not, Jolion platform called Lemon. Yes, I know, what a name. And it's supposed to fit between Jolion and another crossover vehicle called Haval Dargo, which we don't have on the Australian market either. Basically, it's a little larger and slightly more expensive than Jolion, plus obviously offering the buyers a different look, overall different geometry, and what's inside, such as different electronics that will be shown to us further in this video. Let me know, by the way, if you would like me to translate a review of Haval Dargo, even though it's probably the least likely model to come to our Australian shores. Typically, I try to review those that are likely to come. It's still an interesting and an older brother of this H3, so I'm open to translating that review as well if there is enough interest from my viewers, so you know what to do. GWM is expanding in Russia by splitting their brand into two, believe it or not. That's how much demand there is. It will be called Haval City and Haval Pro, where Pro, as I understood it, would focus on their true off-roader 4x4 offerings with real off-roaders on a frame, such as Haval H9 that we've recently translated, and the Haval City brand will be dedicated to those softer models such as Jolion, this H3, and a few others. Yes, they have a lot more models in Russia, and I personally applaud Great Wall Motors here, as they are aggressively flooding the market with variety of value propositions where a potential buyer has theoretically a vehicle for virtually any budget of their own and any sizing or visual preference. While a similarly massive model lineup expansion is very unlikely to come to our much smaller Australian market in the closest future, I believe that if a certain model sells well in the other markets, Great Wall Motor will surely consider bringing it to the other shores, including our own. Design of this H3 looks like Dargo, as I already mentioned, but it is a bit smaller, as all three of these vehicles are reusing the Lemon platform used in Haval Jolion, as already mentioned. The most notable part of this interesting but somewhat awkward, I'm going to say, design is that hump on the tailgate that you can see, and it looks like it should be a storage box, like the one we've seen in Haval H9, or something, I don't know, covering a spare tire, but no, to my complete amazement, it is actually neither. It's actually, brace yourselves, nothing. It is just a design feature that they apparently explained to the Russian reviewers that it's a protector against extra dust and mud for the tailgate window. Yep, can you imagine a more lame excuse than that? Listen, I praise Great Wall Motor when they deserve it, and I sort of, don't pull any punches when they don't. This is that exact moment. Is it something that you design, guys, after a corporate Christmas party? Like, there are no excuses for this, especially if we also pay attention and notice that there is no tailgate window wiper. None. Like, what? Honestly, what were they thinking? H3 has LED headlights, to be expected, with this kind of interesting four-pronged kind of cross design. That Polestar probably might have something to say about. They probably won't. Prominent front grille and plastic bumpers to give H3 a further rough and ready look, so to speak. Clearance is stated at 196 millimeters. Okay, for a crossover. 18-inch black alloy wheels look reasonably nice. No particular thresholds, but a bit of unpainted lower boundary plastic that again tries to produce an off-road capable and kind of scratch resistant impression. It's a petrol vehicle that takes 92 unleaded fuel in Russia, so for us it probably would be theoretically at 91 with a fuel tank of 55 liters. Rear view camera is placed rather low there, kind of around the number plate, and our reviewer suggests that it's kind of uncomfortable and easy to damage even if lightly off-roading, like getting off the beaten path or even just reversing into a slightly lifted elevated curbstone or something of similar nature. This H3 comes with two different engines. Four-wheel drives have 1.2-liter turbo petrol engine with 150 horsepower and DCT transmission. An all-wheel drive version is also turbo petrol of the same volume, but apparently it's pumped up to 177 horsepower and also has a DCT transmission. Boot space specification is stated to fit in about 500 liters, which our reviewer doubts here, saying that they must have measured it literally up to the roofline to fit those 500 cubic meters of space there. I don't know, I'm sort of on the fence about it, and not that I particularly care. There is apparently nothing extra there in that boot space, no luggage curtain, no special hooks, no electrical plug. It's everything like all too very basic, to be honest. Underfloor boot kind of space, we see a spare tire and some really tiny little niches there for a few bits and bobs. Inside, on the driver's side, again, we're told that it looks like Haval Dargo. Digital instruments cluster is apparently updated a little bit. It's a 12.3-inch main infotainment screen that we're seeing here as well, with apparently both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto being supported wirelessly. Wow! Which is not impossible, but I kind of doubt it again a little, as it would simply be inconsistent with all other Haval models where CarPlay is wireless and Android Auto requires a wire. I just think it is simply not logical to have H3 as the basically only model we are aware of that is currently supporting it on the Russian market, hence why I doubt it. Actually, I think there is some misunderstanding there in specifications, and I would still point at one of the inexpensive and a lot more reliable wireless Android Auto adapters a sensible person probably would invest into these days. You can find quite a few with discount codes and links in the description to this video if you're interested. H3 has two slots of wireless smartphone charging, which is, I would dare say, being borrowed from the pioneers of this design, Cherry, and their Armada 5, where we've seen it for the very first time, at least in Australia. Jet Fighter wannabes wet dream joystick gear shifter is clearly becoming mainstream across Haval model lineup in 2024. Gosh, so many closet maverick wannabes out there, but well, if they are going for it, why not give it to them? I say GWM, continue selling it to them like hotcakes. A variety of driving modes controllable by this little rotary shifter shown to us in the middle, and apparently a rather impressive 15-speaker plus a subwoofer in the boot sound system. If you are buying cars to listen to music, more power to you, I don't judge, but for me personally, it is not a selling point for any vehicle. Like, it's certainly not going to tip the scales for me. It's a cherry on top. This one apparently even makes the frontal seats vibrate a little bit to support the rhythm of the music. It's crazy, really, how many unnecessary gimmicks auto manufacturers put into cars these days just to lure us into buying them, isn't it? Second row of seats offers rather generous space for both your legs and the headroom. Seats are fake leather, rather comfortable apparently, but there is no central elbow rest for the passenger seats, and there is panoramic sunroof to compensate for it, which in my humble opinion remains a gimmick if it is sold in Australia or any other hot country, such as South Africa or Saudi Arabia, somewhere there. The less sun, the better for us, my human friends. I know it's a crazy thing to comprehend if you live somewhere in Northern Europe, and I don't judge. Driving experience is better than on Haval Jolion, at least according to our reviewer here, if for no other reason than simply thanks to the fully independent suspension of all four wheels, while in Jolion, for example, the frontal pair is independent and the rear wheels are on a single axle bar. Initially, our reviewer thought that suspension is rather rigid, actually, but it turned out to be that their dealership partners, the ones who are supplying these cars for reviews, they pumped up the tires to some crazy nominal levels for no apparent reason, and the situation improved drastically as they kind of let all that air pressure out and were somewhere within a more sensible range. Steering wheel is mentioned here as nothing special, kind of average experience for Chinese vehicles of a similar class, and for if you drove a few GWM vehicles, you wouldn't be surprised. Acceleration of the vehicle is not the best. There is some lag between the driver actually pushing the accelerator pedal and feeling that the vehicle responded and surged forward accordingly. There are multiple engine modes, of course, that change the driving experience slightly, and fuel economy officially is stated as at 10.8 liters per 100 kilometers, but we could probably expect a bit more in city traffic. Stock sound insulation is nothing to write home about. Apparently, a lot of noise is coming into the cabin from the wheel arches, but Kirill here, our reviewer, thinks that the noise is not just because of the poor insulation of the wheel arches per se, but also due to the choice of the stock standard GT tires that this vehicle comes with, as apparently when they swapped those to something different to test on their very similarly equipped Haval Dargo, it decreased that road noise substantially. So there you go, in case you're interested to know. Let's kind of wrap it up with the pricing, indicative pricing, because pricing always changes. Right between Jolion and Dargo, as you would imagine it, an equivalent of the translated ruble price into Australian price at the start of October 2024 is on the screen right now. I think it's still expensive for a crossover vehicle that is not a real and true off-roader on a frame. But as even our reviewer says, these are crazy times for a lot of people in the world as far as the car supply and pricing is concerned. So this is sadly how much those cars cost these days, even if they're in abundance of supply. But they still cost quite a lot. And interestingly enough, more for your information, not just Chinese or other foreign manufactured cars cost so much in Russia these days. Even the homemade, so to speak, Russian Ladas are also far from cheap, while being much, much worse quality, which is why it justifies this price, and you probably would go for this, paying a tiny bit more, rather than get something much more inferior and paying almost the same amount of money. And this is all there is to say about this Haval H3, my friends, that is coming to Russia pretty much right now and may or may not ever come to Australia. What do you think? What do you think? Would you be upset if it never came? Or would you not even notice? What would you compare this to? Would you prefer it to Jolion, for example? Even if theory, let's say if this was on the showroom floor right now next to a Jolion, what would you go for? This or a Jolion? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, give the video a like if you watched the whole video. I really appreciate your attention. Please keep the politics out of my comments. As always, I have zero tolerance for trolls or for people who bash China or Russia. I don't care if you like this vehicle. Tell me honestly, just remain civil. And I thank you once again for watching, and I'll talk to you next time about something else cars related. Goodbye for now.